New project in the shop. On a serious note, it's a pretty tough project, but it's an upgrade, whatever you want to call it. It is what it, no, it's just, that's what it is. I'm not going to use that old cliche. Okay, so we're in between two sections of the machine. Okay, now let's go over and look at the front. And you'll wonder why. Look at no blocks over there. I gotta tell you this, it's kind of a cool thing. We got this guy in the shop. He's so freaking huge. He just like a bull lifted this thing up like Hercules and he just shoved it out of the way perfectly and it's sitting there all by itself. And then we got the magic spell on it from Harry Potter. And Harry Potter said, he waved his, what do you call that thing? That stick?
Wand. His
wand. And he said, just stay there. So that front half is just balanced all by itself. Anyways, so what we got to do here is we got to take this section here. You'll see a little bit of cracking in the frame here and here. So what we're going to do starting tomorrow, and I'll video all this, is we're going to cut this piece of iron out all the way back, all the way down to this, both sides. And we're going to reinforce it. And the company is actually standing behind it, which is awesome. They're doing the work. They're taking care of their customer. Never worked for a company like this before. Okay, I think the vintage of this is 2010. We got asked to do the repair. So we got it apart. Took us a day and a half to get this puppy pulled apart. And tomorrow we proceed with, I call it gutting. We're going to cut this away, and you'll see through the progress this is going to be one cool project. I'm really impressed with the engineering, with the guy who did the service bulletin on it, who put it out, Yarko, A+. This is going to be a very clean, professional looking repair. And it's done right. Are you filming me? Okay. Are you really? Good. We're going to carbon arc that. We're going to carbon arc that crack. We're going to get rid of that crack. And this. All of this. Instead of grinding forever, that's what we're going to do. You see the 3 holes? They always have to be at the bottom of your rod. When you're carbon arcing, your air is always flowing underneath. Okay? Okay, good enough. Make sure your lens is dark enough too, huh? Hey, are you watching me? If you don't want to get burned, this shit sprays everywhere. And always watch out for fires too. Okay. Alrighty, there it is. What do we got? A mess. Time to hit her with the grinder. Right? Big Kahuna's gonna hit her with the grinder. That's a 200-pound gorilla back there. And his partner monkey. Do you see that? We got it all cleaned out, all the way down, cracked 100%, down to the old weld on the other side. And Strawberry here, he cleaned up all the carbon slag. So we're following protocol, the procedure. So we're gonna weld her up, okay? All right. Okay, we'll talk to you later after it's welded. How's that? We're just going to fit up this plate, the H plate, as they call it. But what we're discovering is we're going to have to take a little bit, grind a little bit here to compensate for the chamfer. The chamfer isn't quite big enough here on the bottom. And also up here, where it meets the tilt table, we're gonna have to grind a little bit here. Plus, we also have to make our 10 mil cut on this gusset. So we got our good weld point over here on the H plate. But as far as it goes right now, we left the stiffener in, the spreader bar. This fits almost perfectly. It's a snug fit right now. We don't have to spread this, nothing. So we'll have this put in. I'm going to fit the U plate before we do anything else after that. Make sure the U plate fits. Pull the U plate out of the way, obviously, so we can make the welds on the bottom here on the chamfer in around this. And with any luck, with the spreader bar in there, the U plate will go right back in. We'll leave this intact. Hopefully it doesn't do too much distorting. We'll take our time welding it out and go from there. I didn't put the stopper blocks on yet, and I'm not gonna until we put the machine together, turn it, because I want both blocks to hit at the same time. Nothing against engineers, but that's the way I'm gonna do it. They fit real nice on this surface, but where? A couple of degrees can change. So we're going to paint everything, but we're just going to mask off a spot here so we can get the machine together and put them on. So here we go. I guess what I did according to the instructions, I'm a little different. Of course, that's what makes me who I am, but I started, my starts and stops were staggered here. And what I did is I went all the way around. I went all the way up, and I transitioned into a vertical, or a overhead. Let me throw some light on this for you. So I basically have, let's do this a little differently. I basically have a single pass, or one continuous weld from here through the corner up into the overhead position, and my stops and starts are staggered up here. I chose to do that because that's the way I am. I'm not a big fan of the super weave like here, but I did it. It worked out very well in the groove, other than the grease running down and causing some havoc from the trunnion getting into the weld. So on the other side I had to grind that a little bit, and down here this gap was massive, so I ran stringers, but of course we just did this to fill, and now we'll do a nice blend and a rounding it off in the back also. And underneath here was quite the chore, but I think it turned out pretty well. Here too, I made that look a little better. We'll blend it in nicely. And inside, let's see if I can see that. around the hole. That was kind of odd too because it isn't perfectly centered, but it worked out. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got really nice penetration on that weld, on that full pin on the other side. It's almost full pin. You can see the heat coming through. And where I could, I reached in and I left some welds on the inside. So basically, we're looking at the sky. Basically, I'm done with completed the welding. So we get to paint her up tomorrow and polish everything up, round all the corners. It's a good idea to blend everything in on the corners, just like they do in the factory. And I've been taught all my life, just radius the corners so you eliminate any stress fractures. And yeah, it worked out pretty darn well. Oh, and by the way, the wire I use here in the States is made by, used to be made by Trimark, but now it's made by Hobart, I believe, yeah. And it's called 777. It's a 70,000 tensile wire. It's all position, flux core, 045. That's what allows me to go around the corner, straight up the hill, and transition right into overhead. I think that's similar to what they used in the service bulletin or in the instructions. It sure looks the same. I don't know what country those were done in, or whatnot. And tomorrow, everything is all pretty much cool right now. We left this in place. So my thought process is tomorrow everything will be cool. We're gonna cut that off. We have our dimension wrote down up there of what this has to be. If it springs together, so be it. We've got a porta power and we'll get it back to where it belongs. We'll put this back in at exactly the dimension. And what I plan on doing, if it will not stay put, rather than overbending it to get it to the proper dimension, in the proper, all this in the proper plane, I plan on just warming this up in what we call stress relieving it. Just getting it to relax in this position down here. And by the way, some of these are obviously different models and whatnot. There was threaded holes underneath this big weld. And so what we did is we took the same thread, cut the bolt off, just a new bolt. After I threaded it in, cut them off, plugged it, so we have, we can still put that skid plate or that abrasion plate back on without having any problems. The bolts won't go all the way through, and I didn't leave a bunch of gobs of weld down in the holes for interfering with people later on. So there we are. Clean her up, put her back together, get her back to the customer. Quite a treat.